Hey everyone, welcome to week 8, chapter 8, the midterm week. I'm going to keep this one fairly short and sweet because I know you have a lot of work to do on your midterms and there is no assignment for this week, only a watch and react. So I'm just going to breeze through this, but these are things that you should know, especially for the folks that are going to continue on to get a business degree or continue on in marketing. These are things you need to know. So the first thing is the benefits of going global. I think the majority of this class so far we've been talking about the United States specifically. However, for a lot of products in the United States, we're at critical mass. We can't sell anymore. Everyone knows about us. Everyone has a brand that they really love. But um, with emerging markets and globalization, there are new markets that need products that we would either consider outdated, too cheap. We've moved on to the next technology, um, or just a new sector for an emerging market. And when I say emerging market, I mean anything from South America to Africa. You look at developed markets that are still, I would consider emerging, some parts of Europe and a lot of Asia. But for the most part, the United States and the Western culture has a huge influence on the world with the products we sell and how we market them. Um, so there is a ton of benefit to going global for companies that are at critical mass in the U.S. Now that does not come with its fair. It does come with a fair share of challenges because of the environment you're going into, the culture, and all the marketing environment that we'll talk about in the next slide. But ultimately, for the majority of companies out there, scaling globally is critically important for success and profitability. So once again, the international marketing environment. We talked a lot about marketing environment in weeks past, this is one of those things where, for the most part, depending on the country or the market you're going into, um, technology could differ. Obviously, political and legal will differ anywhere outside of the United States. I mean, even in the United States, but definitely outside of it. The social-cultural environment will differ just because there are different cultures around the world. Economic environment for sure will differ, and then the competitive environment, you're going to find new competitors or emerging competitors. If it's a brand new product overseas, people try to copy you, and that doesn't even go into what China typically does, which is it gets our products and remakes them for a lot cheaper and then sells them as well, using a blueprint that a lot of companies make from around the world, not just the United States. But ultimately, when you think about going global, the marketing environment is critically important to get right, because if you don't, you can go over there and make a simple mistake in any of these and find yourself unprepared to deal with challenges. So there are a ton of different rules, regulations, and procedures that have to do with international trade. I'm not going to spend too much time on these. It's one of those things where if you're super interested in this, contact me offline, because I just feel like this is far too deep down economic theory and economic understanding for a basic marketing class. So just know that we're in a free trade area in the United States. Um, Custom unions like the European Union present free trade areas for a bunch of different countries, and Common Market extends the customs union by seeking to reconcile all government regulations affecting trade. Once again, this is one of those things where if you're not deep into economics, deep into finance, or going to go deep into marketing, especially global marketing or international business, probably not something you need to think about on a day-to-day basis. Um, the multinational economic integration is kind of interesting. I think these are ones where, um, just for general knowledge, you might care to look at. I think that the ones that you should know about just for your general knowledge are probably the World Trade Organization and the European Union. NAFTA is pretty interesting, but it does affect us, but nothing crazy. And then the Free Trade Area of the Americas, I just don't know that I've ever seen any, unless you're doing business in South America or Latin America predominantly, once again, you're just not going to run across this. Each of these has a link to a very short video that explains them. I hope you watch them, but more importantly, I hope you watch the link that says "Interesting Food for Thought" because it's a kind of a really cool video about international trade and kind of the underbelly or underlying implications of it. It's worth a watch if you're interested in this. Next, going global. I think we already talked about this, but the reasons to go global. The list here, you guys can read it. But really, I think when I look at it, the things that point out to me are we're at critical mass in the U.S., where we need to find new customers, and there's very similar pockets of customers and target markets overseas. And then globalization and the rise of internet shopping and internet marketing has really brought the world a lot closer than we think. And if you're not going global, the global will come to you and start eating into your profits. So sometimes the best defense is a good offense. And I think that those are the main reasons why I believe it's going global. And it's just a lot easier these days with cell phones and internet. The levels of involvement in global marketing, this figures in the book as well. If you want to read it, once again, I feel like this is very kind of niche in understanding, especially as you get to the degree of control being high and the degree of risk being high. It'd be very easy to get a franchise over in England, or not. I shouldn't say easy, but a lot easier. But as you start looking at joint ventures, acquisitions, overseas divisions, that's just something that comes way down the road in marketing and finance and business law. And I don't know that we need to dive too far into it in the global marketing chapter of what we're doing here in the Principles of Marketing. If you have more questions on this and you don't know the book, feel free to reach out. If you do have the book, feel free to read a couple of paragraphs on it. But ultimately, like I said, unless this is of interest to you or you're going on into finance, law, international business, or marketing, this probably will never come up for you. Same thing as we kind of continue on here. More kind of history of multinational corporations to the global marketer. But as we look at some examples of global marketer, which I feel like at this point is any type of Fortune 500 company, it seems, I want you to think about all the companies that we use here that aren't necessarily American. I remember when I was first interning when I was in college for Adidas, before I had my interview, I found out that Adidas was an American company. I thought it meant All Day I Dream About Sports. It actually means Adi space Das, which is short for Adi Dassler. And it's one of those things where a lot of the products that we use here that we think are American are actually foreign. And it's I think, critically important for your understanding as just a human being in the society to understand that not everything comes from America. And with that being said, there's several lists online that you can check out, but ultimately that's what I want you to take from this slide. The strategy, and we're going to dive a little bit into this, but it's a standard marketing mix. So your 4 P's of marketing, and really you can apply what we've learned about the 4 P's of marketing, which I feel like we've driven home to this point. If you don't know the 4 P's of marketing by this point, off the top of your head, or don't understand them, please contact me, because that is really one of the main things I want you to get out of this class. But really, as we look at the 4 P's, it's one of those things where you just need to worry about your marketing environment, and the 4 P's will work magic on their own. It's not something where the 4 P's can solve a problem without understanding the marketing environment. So they're a standard marketing mix. This is a pretty good chart. I think just kind of speaks to that environment and promotion as it pertains to going global. But ultimately, a couple things to take from this slide, and one is the same product, same promotion. So everyone who's eaten cereal knows it's for breakfast, and uses it in the same functionality. The marketing is pretty much the same. The sugary snacks or the sugary cereal to kids, the ones with more fiber, more health benefits for adults, blah, blah, blah. Totally makes sense. Coffee, as someone who's traveled around the world myself, coffee is an interesting one because a lot of countries do coffee differently. I feel like in the United States, it's get your coffee and go. There are some niche coffee shops, but over in Europe, the coffee experience is completely different. Um, and it's if you ever go over there, make sure you hit up coffee shops because it's very interesting. Um, and I really think it came to me as a culture shock, but that's one of the ones where initially I thought, how is that different promotion? And then I realized it's a whole different experience getting coffee. And then new products where you think about all these emerging markets, like maybe in Africa they don't have um, electricity, so you have to create a sewing machine that's not electric or a manually operated washing machine. Still, innovation would never work in the United States, but if you're General Electric or something like that, how do you sell washing machines to people without electricity? So these are things that you need to think about, and the three takeaways from this slide that I want you to think about. As far as distribution goes, the big thing here is once again understanding that marketing environment, politically, legally, how you can actually distribute your product, get it into the country to sell, and then who's going to sell it. That is definitely an importing exporting exercise and drill that once again is way beyond what we're gonna touch on in this class. But understand that if you decide that you want to sell something in China, or if you want to go to Latvia to sell a product, it's not going to be as easy as just showing up or shipping something on a container over there. With the amount of customs, import taxes, tariffs, etc. There's a lot of T's that need to be crossed and I's that need to be dotted properly for that to happen. And if you don't do that, your product could be stuck in a port of call somewhere and kind of just going to waste. Pricing strategy, and this is once again a standard part of the marketing mix that you just need to figure out when you get there, what people are used to paying, what your competitors are charging, what makes sense in the local markets, how important is your commodity to the local markets? Can you charge a premium because it's an American product, assuming you're selling an American product? Do you need to make more money on the back end because of the tariff it costs to bring your product in? So there's a ton of things that we're going to get to when we start talking about pricing strategy later on in the course. But just know that a lot of factors will go into it globally. Counter trade, this is definitely happening a lot with emerging markets and countries that their economy can't necessarily produce the dollars, or they don't have the economy to get products into their country, but they do have natural resources or something else that's a commodity that the people purchasing might want, so they're able to trade it versus use cash, especially when some other countries are in hyperinflation and their cash is actually worthless. So something to think about, but once again, this is definitely importing, exporting, trade, economics, international business type of concept. The United States, like I mentioned earlier, I think part of the global marketing chapter should be spent on companies coming to the United States. One thing that kind of touches my world on a day-to-day basis is the amount of European soccer clubs that view America as almost like the last battleground for fans with disposable income. So every year, several clubs come here to do like a preseason or spring training, as we would think about it for baseball, or preseason for football, and do their preseasons here versus in England, Spain, Italy, or Germany, and it's really just a fan grab or a money grab. So much so that Chelsea, if you're a soccer fan, just got the number one U.S. prospect, in my opinion, not to play, but to sell jerseys to U.S. fans. So there's like a tangible example of a product that's coming here on a yearly basis to try to get as much market share as they can, even though in the United States we have an MLS, and it's pretty successful at the moment. So there's a concrete example of a company that's doing it, but if you look at Toyota, Mercedes, a lot of car companies, foreign imports, that now even have manufacturing in the United States to help that kind of made in America slogan come to life for a German company or for a Japanese company. But it's just something to be not necessarily weary of, but to at least know, depending on if you have any type of proclivity to buy American. Um, it's one of those things where you can say it's made in America, but where's the money actually going to? And if you're in finance or looking to trade stocks, you're not going to find Mercedes on the U.S. stock exchange. It'll be in the German stock exchange, same as Toyota. It's on the Nikkei. There's several other factors that will go into other companies producing products abroad and selling it in the United States. So, food for thought there. The implications, I think that the main ones, like I mentioned, I think for me are, globalization is slowly taking over, and if you're in a company that's not selling abroad, then the abroad might come to you and kind of wipe you out. We're seeing that in the phone wars right now. We're seeing that with cars. A lot of you are probably driving foreign cars. With the collapse in Detroit, several years back. China's producing phones. If you have a Samsung, I believe that's Japanese. So yeah, it's one of those things where, as the world shrinks, companies and you as marketers need to understand that there's a ton of opportunity out there, but then at the same time, there's a ton of focus on the United States because we typically, in at least our lifetimes, have always had disposable income to spend, which is obviously something that companies want. So last thing I want to do is talk through a little bit of midterm advice. I'm treating this like I'm going to treat the final paper. So the grading is going to be pretty tough. I'm going to be candid with that up front. I don't think it's anything to be worried about, and my goal is to let you know the quality I'm looking for the final, which is a ton more points within the midterm. So my recommendations for you all as groups is, one, be as thorough as possible. If you're thinking that should this go in, should it not, I would say when in doubt, put it in. And this doesn't mean I want a ton of fluff, but if you think that there are a couple points that might make sense to put in, you could leave out, it would probably make sense for you to put them in, and I will mark them up and scan them, so this way you can see what I considered you really don't need this for the final, or maybe you need more for the final. Next, I would definitely divide and conquer. At this point, as you're listening to this, you have just a little bit over a week to get this done if you're listening to it as I put it out. But this is one of those things where this is a test for your team. There's not going to be any type of grading situation where you're going to grade your group members, but that will come during the final to make sure everyone's kind of pulling their weight. But I would recommend splitting things up to make sure that you as a group are feeling good about everyone's workload and everyone's contributions. But one thing that had always burned me in college was I would divide and conquer with people, and the people that were in my group would do the work, but it would be subpar. So my recommendation for you would be to proofread everyone's stuff, not just your own. This is going to be a 5-10 page paper, whatever it nets out to, with kind of the graphs and charts and whatever else you put in there. So it's going to be a big paper, but at the end of the day, it's quite a few points, and you want to put together a good product. But I can't stress enough that I'm going to be a little bit of a stickler for spelling and grammar, which has not been the best so far in this class. And formatting as well. This thing should look pretty, and I just want you all to make sure that just because somebody else does a SWOT analysis or a Porter's Five Forces model, or does the Jaguars about us section, that it might be done, but that person might not have proofread it, or you might be a better proofreader. So help your whole group out by reading everyone else's parts and making sure it sounds like one voice all the way through, and that it looks good and it's properly edited to be something that you all can be proud of. Like I already mentioned, this is a dry run for the final, so this is one of those things where you might get done with this and somebody carried a lot more weight than somebody else on the team. Have that conversation. You all are adults, and I want you to make sure that any type of problems are nipped in the bud before you guys get working really heavily on the final. Use third-party research for formatting and style. You can see there I have a ton of recommendations for things I would like in the, the letter or in the project for the league. Um, but I didn't really give you a style, and that's on purpose. I want you guys to kind of figure out your own style and how you want to put it together. So get online, check out how other people have done it. That's how I've typically done it through my career. What the internet's a powerful tool. Google it, and you'll get some really cool inspiration for how yours could look. And I want there to be 5 different looking ones. I don't want everyone's to look the same. That's boring for me. And I also want you to have your own personal flair and touch on it. So feel free to get online and figure out what other people are doing and mimic them to make a product that you put your own style into and feel good about. And the last thing I can't stress enough, and it'll probably fall on deaf ears, is please don't wait until the last day to just start working on this. I know that typically happens for assignments and watching reacts, whatever, but this is a pretty big project, and you just don't want everyone turning in their stuff on Saturday. Saturday should be, or hopefully not, hopefully you get it done on Friday, but Friday should be your day where you're all just reading through it and making little tweaks to make it look good. Um, and candidly, like if there are questions on this on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon that you want me to answer, I have a weekend too. Um, so I gave you the extra day just because I know this is a pain in the butt to do and it's a lot of work and extra lifting. But ultimately, I'm not going to be sitting at my computer waiting to answer questions on Saturday. I will be sitting at my computer every day during the week to make sure I answer questions in a timely manner. So do yourself the favor and start working on this earlier rather than later, because if you do have a question that I need to answer, it's preferably not coming to me on Saturday because it might not be answered in a timely fashion. So that's what I got for you this week. As always, if you have any questions, let me know. Halfway through the year, you guys are killing it. I really I'm happy with the way the assignments are going, the way the watch and reacts are going. It seems like everyone's taking it very seriously, and I really hope you're getting something out of it. And if you're not, let me know. And once again, thanks for all the time and effort you're putting into this. And we will talk soon. Looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with.